Well, and I've got an example for that I wanted to give real quickly here.
Sure.
And that was before I looked into doing, first it was the real estate investing and then finally internet business. But before that, I actually looked at what it was to buy a franchise. And at the time, I didn't even know how much it was going to be. But what I found was they're called, at the time they were called Zamba Juice? It's now Jamba Juice, but there was this other one, Zuka Juice is what it was called before.
Zuka Juice, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so I actually found just this little small town right outside of Salt Lake City. There were the people that owned the original franchise, so it was all up and running and ready to go. And I went and looked at it, and here's the interesting breakdown. Right off, I'd have to pay $30,000 up front. They were saying that it was making a profit of $100,000 a year. And then I was like, well, is that gross or net? So the difference being obviously the gross is that's including, that's just how much money came in for the year. And the net is how much money you as the owner get to keep after all the expenses, right? So they said it was the gross. So after everything, there was a profit of about $30,000 a year. Now, at the time, and they said, now, obviously, if you want higher than that, you would have to come in as the manager and pay yourself like $15 an hour or $12 an hour and work full time to bump that up to, maybe $50,000 a year. And at the time, I just was thinking, isn't that insane? I'm going to pay $30,000 to get a job that's lower than the job. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to buy myself with $30,000. I'm going to buy myself a manager job at a Jamba Juice, basically. Because obviously to quit my job and just have that franchise, I would have had to work it because $30,000 a year was a lot less than I was making. But anyway, my point being is, to put up $30,000 and that didn't count a bunch of things, the different taxes and the building and all these different things that you had to pay. And that was for an established business. Now to start from scratch, I even looked at McDonald's and all these other ones just to see, and it's huge, huge money. So I just wanted to paint that picture first, that before I even looked into anything else, I actually looked at a couple of more real business, let's call it, or what are they called? Offline business, just a regular business where you have a shop and people come in and buy something from you. And that was the initial thing. And that was in a little town outside of Utah. So that was low price, meaning even that $30,000, if you were to do it somewhere else, it would have been a lot more.
Yeah, it is interesting to compare against that, especially once we break down and give you a total, an exact total here for internet business, and the freedom that comes along with it, and the $12 an hour, you can make a heck of a lot more than that with internet business. There's really no cap on what you can do, and the possibilities that are there. You don't have to live in a particular place. You don't have to have employees. You don't have to show up somewhere every day. When you add all that up and say 30,000 for that, it's like, well, I'll pass. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that was just the upfront money. So it was $30,000. Then there were plus all the expenses I would have to start paying right off before there was any income. So just to paint a bigger picture, it was a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing to keep in mind as we go through this is it's all about ROI as well. And so, of course, with buying a business like that, you want to know, well, how quickly can I make my $30,000 back, and then start getting up and beyond that. And, so that's the same thing you want to consider in starting an internet business is like, okay, if I'm going to spend X amount to get started or X amount a month, how quickly can I be in the black? And there's so many businesses out there that 2 or 3 years in, they're still not in the black. They're still have debt that they have to pay off, and they still have investors that are waiting to get their money back. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind as well.
Well, and when I looked into that business, they were very proud to say that I would return, my investment would be returned within the first year, meaning I put $30,000, and they're saying that the net profit was $30,000 a year. So they're going, look, your $30,000 will come back the first year, plus your expenses would be 2 years. And you just go, wow, it'd take 2 years to make. Now, in some investments, that would be good. But this is what we have with this online business is completely different. It makes this, what I just said, that example, seem crazy almost.
So obviously, if you're going to have an internet business, you got to have a place for it to live online. You need a website. And so that's going to start by getting a web address and by getting hosting. The web address is what people type in to find your business. The hosting is where the site lives. And we use oneandone.com for registering our web domains. And that costs less than $10. I think it's like, what, $6 or $7 for that. If you go to internetbusinessmastery.com/domains, that will, with an S on the end, domains, that will forward you to the place that we use to buy web addresses. So right there, you got, we're up to a whopping $7 so far.
Well, I think it's actually right now it's up to 8 something, but it's under $10. And when we first started, it was like $6. So it's up like $2 a year. And that's for a whole year. That's not a month.
Yeah. Hosting. Well, hosting, you can get started right away for under $100. A lot of hosts like you to pay for a year up front. Some of them will allow you to pay month to month. And it's a very competitive space, so the prices are always changing. I was actually looking at our suggested hosts this morning, and they were, right now, if you pay the whole year in advance, it's under $5 a month that it averages out. So it's like $60 for your first year, which is incredibly cheap. Now, that's always fluctuating around, but for all intents and purposes, it's never been over than like $100 to get your first year of hosting and have a place for your website. So we're looking at, under $10 a month or about $100 up front to get your hosting a place that you can start installing and putting your website and selling your stuff from. So for our recommendation for hosting, go to internetbusinessmastery.com/hosting, and that's where we send people in the academy. A lot of people in the academy have been using that, and we still have sites actually ourselves that are hosted on that web hosting as well. And we picked that because we've had good experience with them, with the customer service and the price and the features, and it's easy to get WordPress installed on it and some things like that.
Yeah, and to keep in mind, too, that anything we're talking about and suggesting, it's because we use it. Again, that's our big key, is that these are things that we use.
Now, with hosting, the hosting that we have now, we spend about $100 a month on, but that's, that was like 5 years into it. And when we got the academy running on it, people who were paying $100 a month themselves. So obviously then we're a little more cognizant of having a higher level hosting, but it took us a while to get to that point and to need something that expensive. And it's probably actually even more than we necessarily need, but we just wanted to absolutely play it safe and just say, look, let's just get something that's not going to be any trouble at all for us. But every business, when we started out, when Internet Business Mastery started out, we used hosting that was, less than $10 a month. All right, something else you're absolutely going to want from right up front is email management system. And you might be thinking, well, I don't have an email list yet. But the point is that the moment your site goes live, you need to be collecting emails, because that's the whole point of this. The biggest asset, the money earner of your business is going to be in the people that have found your site and they like what you have and they've given you permission to continue it, to keep in touch with them, to send them an email newsletter, to send them content, and then to send them offers eventually. And that's all in your email list and in the relationship that you maintain with that email list. And without our email list for Internet Business Mastery, we definitely would not make as much money as we do. Whenever we promote something, whenever we have a launch, whenever we want people to click and buy, it's the email list that really gets the response for us. And so that's something you want to build from day one. When somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I've got this business in the site, will you check it out real quick? The first thing I look for is, do they have an email list? And sadly, 80% of the time they don't. Or if they do, it's buried somewhere on the site where it's hard to find, or they don't have a good reason why for people to sign up, a good incentive for people to sign up. And I say right there, that's why things, that's the number one thing I'd say is change that now, today. And to do that, you need to sign up for a good email management service. You don't want one that is free. You don't want the one that's cheap. You don't want one that your host just says, oh, here's a piece of software you can install on your site. You want a service that's all they do, and they do it really well, because again, that is where the money in your business is. We could lose everything in our business tomorrow, and as long as we had our list, a way to contact the people we have a relationship with, we could get back making money in no time at all. So get a good professional email management system from day one and get that web form put on your site. The one that we've always recommended is Aweber. Right now, for starting out, it's $19 a month, and you can find that at getmyemaillist.com. So right there, we're up to, let's say $10 a month for hosting and then $19 a month for Aweber. So about $29 a month that you'll be paying in ongoing stuff, and we've spent about $100 on getting our web hosting. Well, so I guess that was including web hosting. So we're up to about $30 a month. Or if you paid the web hosting in advance, you might get a bit of a discount on that as well. Once you've got your hosting, now you got to set up the site itself. Some people might go, well, I don't know how to program a site, and I don't know how, so do I have to hire somebody? Do I need to go get a programmer to put a site together for me? And that was how things were done. Back in the late 90s and the late 90s, web designers and web programmers were making big bank just putting sites up for people, because there weren't quite as many people, there weren't that many people that knew how to do it well. And it was the big thing is everyone's got to get a site now.